Hello everyone, and Happy New Year! Today we're going to be talking about a big era of Thomas, the hit era. This was quite controversial at the time, as this was one of the bad eras. I'll be checking out all the seasons and specials that it produced, and giving it my overall opinion on it. But without further ado, enjoy this video. Also consider liking and subscribing please. This all began with the amazing failure of Thomas and the Tragic Railroad. As it says in its name, it was designed to fail. Don't quote me on that, do not look it up. Basically, after that, Hit decided to buy the FROSTY Studios and basically make it more kid-friendly. And by kid-friendly, they mean tear all the originality it had for being a good kids show and then strap it down to literal toddler material. This was a choice to make it a much larger audience. Yeah, that worked out. It sure did. After picking up the company, Season 7, well, in the US dub, was drastically changed, meaning that the old composition from Mike and Jr. was no longer there, and it was narrated by Michael Brandon. He isn't a good voice actor, I'm sorry. But then afterwards, it just became a hot pile of steaming garbage, which we'll now talk about, starting off with Season 8. Season 8 was a good start to the hit era. It's probably going to be one of my favourite seasons, and you can clearly see why. And by the way, I don't mean favourite seasons of all time, that's just a stretch. It's just my favourites, probably going to be my favourite seasons out of all of these. Because I have watched them and they all go downhill. But this one was definitely a highlight. Majority of the episodes that I watched, I thoroughly enjoyed, even though sometimes I was screaming at the screen sometimes with, especially Thomas and the tuba player. Why didn't Clarabelle just tell Thomas that you saw the tuba player on the platform? She was literally looking at him. Why didn't he look? Anyway, apart from that, I really enjoy it. Like, he feels like a toned down version of the season. They didn't introduce any characters, and it felt quite calm for what it was. I think that was the correct way to do an opening season, because you didn't want to introduce a new audience and go, whoa, look at all these wacky things. I'm calling all legends. But yeah, getting the new demographic to the audience was really a good step forward, and the characters are quite good. Even though Michael Angelis gives a terrible Percy voice, which is annoying. Look at all those passengers! Most of the characters are in their prime, but some are tainted, like Thomas becoming the main character and just being either a nice guy or an arrogant idiot, and sometimes Percy's just a wimp. Look at all those insects! But other than changing characters just to be the borderline stereotypical view for the children, it was a solid season, and I do think the good episodes definitely outweigh the bad, which is not a common theme, I suggest. But yeah, this is so far a good season. I just hope they keep it up going into Season 9, but knowing the track history, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Calling all engines, or as some fans like to dub it, calling no engines, because this movie is mixed in the fandom. Some consider it great, while others consider it not great. And I'm kinda in the mix there to say it's okay. The model stuff is great, however, there is a lot backing it down. Like an example of that is the learning segment. Woo! Everybody loved these. And by everybody, I mean 2-year-olds who actually watch the TV segments in America. These are dull and boring and are just filler. It was like they were trying to extend the time. And also the second problem is the pacing. It's just drawn out dialogue scenes with no actual action, and then once you get to the action, it happens for like 2 minutes and then there's nothing else. However, I do think some positives are: 1, the set design is amazing. That scene where the bridge collapses is stunning, and I still like it to this day. And 2, the overall story. I like the message it's going for. Unlike Day of the Diesels and Misty Island Rescue, which I will cover at a later date when I'm reviewing all Thomas movies, didn't handle this very well. Unlike this movie, which portrayed both Steamies and Diesels to be in a bad light and good light. They can both stoop down to so far levels and make themselves seem horrible. I also love how they retcon Magic Railroad. Like, they introduce Lady to be a figment of Thomas's imagination, and Diesel tends to be this just bully character rather than an actual threat. But I prefer Magic Railroad, as this just seems like an idiot and there's no threat to him. Like, honestly, you can just go up to him and then just go, "Hey, do you want to help us?" No. Oh, come on, pretty please. Okay, I've got nothing else to do. It's not like I'm doing this work right here. No, Thomas, let's go. But overall, I do think this movie is okay, but still felt like it had a lot of work to do. But it's not really that bad. The songs are also quite good as well. They're very fast paced, and also get you going when it's practically boring. But they sort of come out of nowhere. It's just weird. Look.
The Diesels and Steamies could do their favorite job.
Climb aboard, the train's departed.
Yeah, but in conclusion, this is an okay movie, and it's pretty harmless, because Thomas's reputation was always ruined. You can't ruin it anymore, right? Season 9 feels like a step down in quality compared to Season 8, which is kind of understandable, as they seem to get a good idea of what their target demographic was, which was 3-year-olds. So the stories feel a lot more of the same thing, but they've just replaced out characters. And this is the first season where Thomas appears in every single episode, and ever since then it's just been more infuriating, because I know, the kids aren't going to remember, because 3-year-olds don't have the memory, that it's a Thomas show, but the intro literally plays. They know it's a Thomas show, because the Thomas intro plays. And overall though, this season is just, it's just okay. But some of the episodes are really good. Like Duncan in the Old Mine is definitely a really good episode, and one that I was actually afraid of when I was younger. But there are some duds, and they are worse than Season 8. And you can clearly see where the show was going to go from there. I forgot to comment on the music, but it's okay. There's a mixed range. It feels like it used a lot of tubas, Robert Hartshorn. Oh yeah, and I've forgotten to mention the returnees of this season are the Narrow Gauge Engines. Everyone but Sir Handel is here, which is a cool return, but they might as well have not returned at all, because Scarlett and Rheneas are literal kids, and half of those episodes are boring, with the exception of Duncan and the Old Mine and Magic Lamp, which adds on to some more about the backstory of Sodor, even though they may not ever mention it until Season 12, which we'll get on to later. But yeah, overall, I think this season is okay, but it's definitely a step down in quality. We'll see what next season holds. Season 10 is bad. It is Season 9, but worse. The amount of duds in this season is just really, really bad, and the worst episode of the entire hit era is literally on this, which I've reviewed in the past and have ranted about, and I will add my new thoughts on, as that was half a year ago. Thomas's Frosty Friend sucks. It's the worst episode of the hit era, not the worst episode of Thomas. All engines go over the top that, and the nitrogen era to an extent. But this episode is just so boring and so annoying. Like, there's nothing good about it. I don't see how children can get past it. And that sums up the entire season 10 for some of the episodes. How could you get past this? It's just boring. Nothing happens, and there's nothing entertaining to keep the children watching. And the Three Strikes formula comes into the plot now. And also, we have got the great return of Sir Handel after a season-long wait. And his return, it was okay, I guess. It was an okay episode. Not else to say about it. All that hype led up to nothing. It kind of shows season 10 in a nutshell. But it was a special season, so it got 2 extra episodes, which it could have done without, because that just added on to the amount of rubbish I had to sit through.
Mr. Snowman!
But yeah, this season is just rubbish. I have the least to say about it. Just moving on. Season 11. Oh boy, I've been waiting for this one for 2 seasons straight. Season 11 was a return back to the quality of Season 8. Well, slightly less. But this time we have the new added resolution upgrade, where it looks all HD now, which is a definite upgrade. I definitely think it suits it. The episodes are honestly a mixed bag. But compared to Season 8, there are more duds than in Season 8 in this season, unfortunately. But the good episodes are still very good, and honestly, if they weren't for a couple of duds, this could be on par with Season 8. I was going to mention the new characters, but I'll save that for a bit later, as I have a lot to say about one in particular. But let's keep on the positives. The model work is still great, even though this is a bad era of Thomas, the model stuff is always going to be great. Unless you're Season 12, which we'll get onto quite shortly. But however, now it's time to move over to the negatives. First of all, some of the stories are just plain old bad. And it seemed with some of them now, in some episodes, they weren't even trying and were just trying to market new characters that didn't show up anymore. And that brings me on to Don't Be Silly Billy. An episode in the fandom that majority of people despise.
Stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine. You are a very bossy engine. You are a very bossy engine.
And for good reason. This episode is horrendous. You have this annoying character that when he fails, we're supposed to feel sorry for. Look at this toy. I do in fact own this toy, and without knowing, I didn't watch that episode, so I just thought, oh look, a cool looking train, that's cool, I'll play with him, I'll make him a good character. But little did I know how much of an idiot he was. Well, Season 11 surely was a better season than Season 9 and Season 10. But knowing the hit era, they'll probably produce something bad straight after this. Like, honestly, their track record doesn't show anything. Wait, hold on a second.
The Great Discovery.
The Great Discovery is quite a good movie. It feels like a true finale to the Marvel series. The sets are amazing, Great Waterton included, and I find the whole plot around Thomas finding a town seem very amazing, even though Harold should have found it before him. There are so many characters in this. I bet the people at HIT were asking the writers, how many characters would you like in this? And they just said yes. Literally, you've got the standard gauge, the narrow gauge, the pack, and so much more. It's simply quite amazing. And that's not even talking about the plot. So while doing a very special, Thomas finds the town of Great Waterton, which apparently nobody has ever seen before. And then once he tells the Fat Controller, he's promoted to being in charge of everyone restoring the town. Ah yes. Let's just let the entire town rely on a engine that cannot build stuff. Yeah, great job. Then whilst also building a town, the Fat Controller purchases a new engine, Stanley, which the engines really like.
In the distance, they could hear the other engines cheer. Welcome, Stanley!
That's probably how I imagined high school. Now look at me now.
He was disappointed.
We're getting back on track now. I like how Thomas is portrayed as an idiot who just wants to be noticed and get the most amount of attention. And that seems like something that Thomas would do, to stoop down to such levels and then just cause everything to go wrong. And then trying to redeem himself, it's kind of more of a product of the hit era. I don't really mind it, it just makes for an amazing chase sequence through the mines. Like, I always wanted to just go down that track, even though I was terrified of roller coasters, and still am to this day. But yeah, overall this movie is a great showcase of all the props, and as I said earlier, it feels like a true finale to the model series. But we still got one more season left. Let's hope this goes out with a bang before the CGI seasons. Season 12 is horrific. Do you want to know the reason why I said The Great Discovery was a true finale to the model series? This is why. Sure, it was a transition season into the CGI, but still, it was horrendous. I mean, look at Edward. He looks like a 5-year-old. And what is wrong with his eyes? Why are they so small compared to the other characters? And that's not even going over the plot of the episodes. Guess what? Guess who wrote this? Bloody Sharon Miller once again. I've talked about her in deleted videos, but still, all you need to know about her was she was a bad writer for a kids' cartoon. They were all the same, and they might as well have just been written in one night. I bet they were. I guarantee all the ones that she wrote was written in one night. Even though for the bad animation and quite horrible writing, there are a few golden nuggets in there. Like, the very far few between, and they're probably just okay. But Mountain Marvel is definitely one of my favourites, with such a unique plot, and actually, for once in the hit era, and continuity. Great job, Hit. You did the one thing that you can't do in the future. Keep up continuity. Woo! This was definitely a sign of things to come, and although I'm not going to be talking about it in this episode, I'll mention briefly that the Nitrogen era was the worst part of Thomas. Well, what we count as Thomas. This doesn't count as Thomas. But yeah, even though Season 12 had returnees to make the fans go happy, this was definitely the worst season of them all, and at the bottom of the list. Well, the list that was coming up, so I guess I kind of spoiled it for you. Whoops. Sorry, let's move on to the ranking. Time for the bit where everyone's gonna hate me. Ranking all the seasons and specials we've gone over so far. So, at the bottom of the list, it should be expected that Season 12 will be at the bottom of the list. It is the worst out of the hit era and probably competing for one of the worst seasons ever. But, yeah, there was nothing good about this season, and the best thing was just okay. Moving on now, we have got Season 10. It was just bland, to be honest. There was nothing interesting to say about it. The same could be said for Season 9, as it just felt the same, but I'm just going to rank it slightly above due to it being earlier and more episodes that I liked. Then it's going to be Calling All Engines, which on one hand could be really entertaining, but on the other hand, it's just boring. It's just honestly the most boring thing I've ever been through. As the fans have done, they've done a cut of it where it seems a lot shorter and removed all the learning segments, and that works fine on its own, which would make it good. Then we're on to season 11, a definitely good season with the HD quality, made it look even better. But yeah, it was a good season overall, but there was still a lot of duds in it. Now, for our second place slot, it's going to be the season 8. Now, I know this may be a bit controversial because people would consider this the best of the hit era, but I actually believe The Great Discovery is more consistent, as I'll say, at the number 1 spot. While season 8 is a really good season, it does have a lot bringing it down, like the duds of the episodes are just bad. But some of those episodes are season 6 and 7 worthy. But in first place, we have The Great Discovery. Obviously, like I said before, it stays consistent. The world building is amazing. It felt like a true finale to the models, as I said before. And it was a shame that season 12 followed it, because I would have been happy to say this was probably the ending for the model era before transitioning to CGI. But yeah, that is my thoughts on and review of every single hit era season. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please smash the like button and consider subscribing. We have just passed 60 subscribers, which is amazing, and I wanted to put this video out to celebrate it, but obviously it's taken a lot of time. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye!